Hi, I'm Justin Baker. I am a media technology and film studies teacher at Charleston County School of the Arts in Charleston, South Carolina. We are a 6 through 12 integrated arts magnet school, and we audition all of our students to attend to study a major art of their choice. And so I teach media technology, which includes television, radio, journalism, and broadcasting. As part of my master's research, I did an action research project on promoting visual literacy, integrating into the content classroom. So let's get started. When we look at the term visual literacy, what do we mean by that? Well, if we take the two words individually and help to define what they mean by themselves, it will point us in the right direction. So first, let's look at the word visual. For the sake of this type of project, some may define visual as anything that is represented by a sign or symbol. And if we take it further into all-encompassing senses, we begin to talk about media literacy. But for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to talk about just the visual. Now, here are some examples of signs and symbols that we encounter every day and interpret them to mean something. First, road signs. Most of the signs we see in our everyday driving on the roads are representational symbols or images that cause us to interpret them in a uniformed way. A sign may warn you of an upcoming tight curve, or inform you of a merge in traffic, or point to dangers up ahead. Even a crosswalk or children playing are represented by images that support human shapes. There are no words here to read, just the signs and the symbols. Now, this is a symbol that everyone in this room should know. The @ symbol is now a part of almost everyone's identity as a symbol in your email address, and in recent years has become a way to identify or tag other people in social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter. And what does this symbol mean? Well, it changes as it's being used, and in a 21st century culture, this changes with every platform it's used on. So to imagine yourself in a retail store or a restaurant in a foreign country, and nature calls. If you're running around the building and you finally see these two symbols, one of them will give you a sign of relief. The age of creatives should definitely know this symbol. This is the copyright symbol, which appears quite a bit these days with music, literature, and productions. This represents a seal or a protection of work. So, let's identify the definition of literacy. Throughout the ages of the meaning of this word has developed into a more broadened depth to cover mass media, and for this presentation we're going to use the definition agreed upon by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, which is the ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, communicate, compute, and use printed and written materials associated with varying contexts. Literacy involves a continuum of learning in enabling individuals to achieve their goals, to develop their knowledge and potential, and to participate fully in their community and wider society. So that's a long definition. And that's actually what we just did with the symbols and signs we just looked at a few seconds ago. We interpreted and identified some of them to mean certain things. So what about when these things are not just that simple? So let's look at a few more images. As a human culture, we eventually evolved into shying away from symbols into a more complex language system by using an alphabet of letters. Now, everyone here should be able to identify these two letters that you see here. These two letters are A and C. Now, when they are used alone, they don't have any meaning, unless, I suppose, they're on your college transcript. But then they have much value. But we have designed this system to interpret letters to be used together with others to form meaning. These two letters without context are meaningless. So here are a bunch of more of these letters put together in a string of a somewhat better idea of the context, although it isn't complete. Can anyone find our friends A and C? Yes, they're down here hiding in the word back. Now we can make better sense of why A and C are together. Now what about the rest of their world that they live in? Now the cries suddenly they, horsemen swerve, horseback south. Now we do know that someone cries something and suddenly a horseman swerves and someone on horseback is going south. Now see how everyone here is trying to deduce the adventures of A and C and what is going on in this story. This is our way of extracting meaning or interpreting or computing what is going on with this context. Now imagine if we could see the entire paragraph, or even the whole page, the whole book even. Let's look at another image. This is something completely different. It serves no symbolic practical purpose on our roadways and has no words to interpret. But it is a created image by a painter, actually a very successful one by the name of Nathan Durfee, who was just voted Best Artist in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, if you take a moment to look at this painting, you see what appears to be a cactus in the middle of the desert and an object flying quite high in the sky. That is actually an elephant floating from a balloon. There is an odd duality here because you instantly feel anxiety for the elephant and hope that it won't land on the cactus. But at the same time, from the cactus's point of view, it certainly wouldn't survive the encounter of the elephant. So again, this image is open to interpretation, isn't it? Alright, let's look at something else from moving images. Now this is a still from the film which, according to the American Film Institute, has remained the #1 film of all time, Citizen Kane. It was hailed for its new horizons in cinematography, and Orson Welles' use of the composition of images. So let's look at this still, and if you know anything about the plotline, you know that Kane is pictured here in the foreground and is seen as a largely controlling and powerful man. Now, the way Welles has composed this shot, the angle comes from the camera beneath the floor, pointing upward, to create an illusion that Kane is actually taller than he truly is, and is more emphasized by the other character in the background. If you were to show this film in your classroom, what kind of meaning could you talk about with the author's intent, in this case of authoring a movie, or authoring an image, or authoring a screen? So, now we're starting to see conversations happening from the actual creation of the visual image, which is another element of literacy. So, in this project, what we did is we decided to create an experiment in the visual literacy question, how it affects learners in their studies. So we chose 3 middle school teachers, each in a different subject area, and decided to start a conversation about the importance of visual and media literacy and their experience in the classroom. The project is divided into a pre-survey that was given at the beginning of the research project to assess the needs of the instructors and their prior knowledge of both visual and media literacy and the arts integration, as well as their experience with professional development. And then we broke the project up into cycles, with the first being the collaboration and learning about visual and media literacy within their cohort, creating an integrated media arts lesson plan, and then pursuing cycle 2, which is actually teaching the lesson with their students, in which the students then become the participants in the study. So, some examples of from the pre-survey where finding the time to fit it in the curriculum. Those were things that they could not see as helping them, or buying into the idea, or finding relevant resources. So these are a few of the things of many that were fears, I suppose, in preventing some type of professional development with any type of arts integration. And then from the pre-survey, we had some interest in other lesson plans, such as all of them were interested in doing filmmaking, integrating filmmaking into their content areas. And then some technology and integration with the arts were also very high on the interest plans. And how often would they include it? Well, personally, I might want to do it weekly. Some teachers, depending on their subject area, might want to do it not as often. So most of the participants decided to do it bi-monthly, so every couple months, while some of them did a weekly example. So the conversational data that we collected was all centered on a wiki space. And a wiki space is just a website that you can create yourself, and it's very customizable. And so I decided to create discussions, and it was created specifically for the purposes of this action research project. And the idea behind that was all of us could communicate together online, which would detract from the time we'd have to actually physically meet together. So it was an experiment on us meeting online virtually as well. Different discussion questions were posed by the researcher, and the teachers contributed ideas and thoughts about the importance of visuals and the media in the classroom, as well as the media art standards that we're using on the wiki space. Right around the time this project took place, we took a holding pattern. We saw an opportunity here. This was the first year that the newly developed South Carolina media art standards were released, as you can see them here. And as of yet, they had not been implemented. So we saw this as an opportunity to both utilize these standards and to provide a framework for the integration project that we were using in the research project. So as you can see, there are 6 total standards, and they each address various standards for media education, including media literacy. So we just got these and we're pretty excited. Conversations in the study included sourcing different websites, placing existing projects and example lesson plans that integrated media into subject matter. One premier resource was the Media Literacy Clearinghouse, created by a man named Frank Baker, and there's no relation here. He had done extensive research and still remains one of the best experts in the field of media literacy. He also helped draft the media arts standards for the state of South Carolina. So I corresponded with him a lot through email. I talked to him about my project, and he directed me to his website, and you're welcome to go as well, which is 3ws.frankwbaker.com, and it has lots of starting points for any research participants in this study as well as your own. So after the teachers pretty much decided on what they were planning on doing, we kept the lesson framework consistent by implementing the Curriculum Leadership Institute for the Arts lesson plans, or CLIA. These are a standard of integration lesson plans using the arts. It's a template, and so we used the standard for implementing the arts into lesson planning. And as you can see, it covers a wide variety of elements. On this slide, it shows you some of the things that are implemented, including the hook, as well as the art standards addressed and the subject matter addressed standards. Through the middle of cycle 1, our reading teacher just couldn't find the time to participate in this type of collaboration, so she dropped out. And with many other obligations, this might happen with your own schools. If you're interested in doing this, this is interesting to note. A project like this one does take a concentrated bit of time and effort to accomplish. So now we have left 2 teachers here, and we decided to carry on. But I wanted to keep that information in there for you. You might have that come up, especially with a small group like this one. But it was we ended up doing okay. We had 1 science teacher and 1 math teacher, and they began to brainstorm what their students would create in their classrooms while addressing both their content standards as well as media standards, concentrating on visual literacy in their classrooms. So this is the outline for the science area. And so as you can see, they've been studying different types of invertebrate and vertebrate animals. And so they're going to pick one. They did a web quest, and then they're going to present their information. And there's different identifiers and things, specific things they had to identify, such as adaptations, movement, physical characteristics. 5 facts that they thought were interesting. So we used Standard 2 here. The teacher chose Standard 2, which is Understanding Artistic Design. And you can see our art indicators here for the media art standards. So we move on to the math, and through this, for this teacher, they chose to use customary units. So to teach customary units, she actually turned it on to the students, and they were going to create a video, 3 to 5 minutes, and they would have to focus on a part of the system of customary units. So liquid, weight, mass, length, and the video had to use at least 4 film techniques. So she's placing emphasis on the visual literacy just as much as the math context here. So she chose to use Standard 1, creating media artwork. So as these projects were being created in the science classroom, their teacher gave them a choice of making a PowerPoint, an iMovie, or a photo story in the traditional poster board project. 12 students chose PowerPoints, a couple of which you can see here. 2 chose a movie or photo story, and 9 chose the poster. Something interesting a student said was, while asked why they choose PowerPoint over the poster board, and they said using PowerPoint is much easier than printing, cutting, pasting everything on a poster board. And then someone else said PowerPoint is better than a regular poster board because it's less time consuming and more efficient. There's no mess, and it's more interactive like clip art and animations. It's a lot more portable thanks to USB drives. And when people use PowerPoint, they are interacting with modern technology, and it saves trees by not using paper. And those came from middle school students here. So the math students used flip video cameras that were supplied by the school's media center. They were given a loose rein to create what they thought would be instructional and entertaining, while closely meeting filmmaking do's and don'ts. So they first created a storyboard with their group and then started shooting their scenes, which would later become an instructional film for their classmates on customary measurements unit in their class. So here's a couple of examples of some of the videos. Let's take a look.
I'm walking on sunshine.
Guess what? What? I'm 1 pound. No, you're 16 ounces. I beg to differ. No, you're 16 ounces.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yes.
You know, you guys are both right. You see, 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces.
Whoa, you can go in and out with the camera. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
OMG, that is amazing.
Hey, look, it's random strangers. Hi, Lawrence. Hi, Lawrence. Hi, Lawrence. Hey, Nick. Hey, Nick.
What?
Hi, Mr. Blasey.
Oh
hey, Mr. Blasey. Say hi to the camera.
My mouth is Michael!
When we wrapped this study, the math class still needed more time than anticipated and continued their movie making and editing not included in the study. The teacher noted how excited the kids were about using filmmaking as a part of learning something new, created teamwork, it nurtured the naturalistic learner of being outdoors, and gave the teacher some confidence in doing more media integration in the future, which is the key here. Both teachers were very pleased, and at times they were surprised by the outcome. Both of these teachers will be the first featured in a website, which will create a resource for other teachers to access and use these example plans in their own classroom. Each year, a new cohort of teachers will participate as a part of a professional development program for the visual and media literacy movement. And it's an infusion of the newly adopted media arts state standards, so we hope to integrate this even more into our school, and we hope the website will grow and become a great resource for educators both locally and worldwide to use as a resource. So that's where we're going with this media here. Now, for those of you dying to know where our friends A and C came from, just what the horseman was doing, here is the paragraph. This is actually an excerpt from the novel of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So I can virtually see some of the smiles on your faces, representing the pleasure of knowing just how important literacy is. Thank you for your time, and this was Justin Baker.